The cold, damp city street blurred around Marcus Thorne as he made his last delivery. Exhausted, his own modest dinner clutched in his hand, he spotted a solitary figure slumped on a park bench. It was a man, Sterling Vance, who looked as though the weight of the world had settled on his shoulders, entirely alone. The alarm shrieked at 4 a.m., a familiar torment. Marcus Thorne was already awake, the scent of stale coffee clinging to his small apartment. Day in, day out, he pushed his body to its limits, the city a relentless blur of streets and addresses. Every turn of his bike's pedal, every hurried step, was a silent vow to a future he was fighting to build. One grueling shift at a time. A soft glow emanated from Maya's room. Marcus peered in, finding his daughter hunched over textbooks, a college brochure open beside her. "Still up, superstar?" he whispered. Maya smiled, pointing to a university logo. "Just dreaming, Dad. That tuition, though." Marcus's smile tightened. "Don't you worry, sweet pea. We'll make it happen." But the numbers on the page were a constant, nagging ache. Mid-morning, Marcus took a detour to the community garden. Overgrown weeds choked the vegetable beds. A broken fence sagged under its own weight. He imagined rows of vibrant produce, a bustling hub for the neighborhood. A deep sigh escaped him. This neglected patch, once a beacon of hope, now mirrored the fraying edges of his own dreams. He pulled a stubborn weed, a small act of defiance. Later that afternoon, Marcus saw him again. The man from the park, Sterling Vance, sat on the same bench, his shoulders slumped, eyes fixed on nothing. A half-empty bag of fast food lay beside him, untouched. Marcus felt a familiar pang of empathy. He recognized that look. The quiet despair of someone who felt utterly defeated, a reflection of fears he sometimes fought within himself. Marcus hesitated, then approached. "Rough day, brother?" he asked softly, extending his own dinner, a simple warm meal he'd been looking forward to all day. Vance looked up, a flicker of surprise in his weary eyes. He didn't speak, just nodded, his hand trembling slightly as he took the container. The steam rose, a small cloud of warmth in the cool evening air, an unspoken bond forming. "It ain't over till you quit, you know," Marcus said, his voice low but firm. "Life's got a way of knocking you down, but it's the getting back up that matters. The grit. There's always another chance to grow, even from the hardest ground." Vance listened intently, his gaze unwavering, unreadable. The words hung in the twilight, a quiet offering of undying spirit. Is kindness a luxury he can't afford? Watch a good man battle his own doubts. Late that night, Marcus sat at his small kitchen table, the dim glow of the overhead light illuminating a stack of red-stamped envelopes, each one a reminder of a deadline looming, a bill overdue. He ran a weary hand through his hair, the memory of the stranger in the park still fresh. Had he been foolish? Giving away his own dinner, when Maya's tuition fund barely budged? A faint smile touched his lips. No, some things weren't about profit. They were about keeping a piece of himself intact. The haters emerge. See how easily good intentions are misunderstood and mocked. The next morning, the delivery hub buzzed with the usual frenetic energy. Marcus, already on his second route, grabbed a fresh bag for his next order. "Still playing Mother Teresa, Thorne?" A voice sneered from behind him. It was Mr. Silas, a grizzled driver whose cynicism was as ingrained as the grease on his uniform. "Heard you gave your dinner to some park bum. No wonder you're always chasing fares." Marcus's jaw tightened. He didn't turn, just adjusted his helmet and walked away, Silas's snide chuckle echoing in the impersonal space. The failed man isn't so failed after all. Who is watching, and why? From a discreet distance, nestled on a park bench behind a rustling newspaper, Sterling Vance watched Marcus pass. He wasn't in the same ragged coat today, but a slightly worn, albeit clean, jacket. His eyes, no longer shadowed with despair, were sharp, analytical, tracking Marcus's hurried pace. A small, leather-bound notebook rested on his lap, a pen poised. He wasn't simply observing a struggling delivery driver. He was studying a subject, every selfless act, every quiet moment of resilience, meticulously noted. The failed entrepreneur was, in fact, an architect of observation. The walls are closing in. Can one man outrun the mounting debt? That evening, the red envelopes seemed to multiply. Marcus opened another, then another, the numbers mocking him. He pinched the bridge of his nose, the headache a familiar companion. He dialed the number on a utility bill, his voice strained as he pleaded for an extension. "I understand, sir," the automated voice cut in, "but payment is due." A click, then silence. The phone slipped from his weary hand, the dead tone a stark echo of his mounting desperation. The child sees what the world misses, a father's silent struggle. Can she save him? A soft knock at his bedroom door. Maya stood there, her brow furrowed. "Dad, you okay?" "You look really tired." Marcus forced a smile, a practiced mask. "Just a long day, sweet pea. Don't you worry about it. Go back to your studying." He pulled her into a hug, the warmth of her small body, a fleeting comfort against the cold dread in his stomach. She nodded, but her empathetic gaze lingered, seeing past his feigned cheer. Scene_end. Scene_number 13. The strange bond grows. Is this friendship or something more? Later that night, seeking a moment of quiet, Marcus found himself back at the park. There, on their bench, sat Vance, not looking forlorn, but sketching intently in his notebook. The city lights began to twinkle. Marcus sat a respectful distance away. Vance glanced up, offering a quiet nod. "Cooler tonight," Marcus murmured. Vance simply hummed in agreement, a slight, almost imperceptible smile. No words were needed. Just a shared space, a silent acknowledgement, and the growing, unspoken understanding between two men. The park bench became a quiet anchor in Marcus's chaotic days. Over several afternoons, he and the man he knew only as Vance fell into an unspoken rhythm. Sometimes, Vance would be there, a worn paperback in his hand, a quiet nod his only greeting. Other times, Marcus would find him sketching in a small notebook, eyes distant. They shared fleeting moments of silence, an unexpected companionship forming between two souls in shared solitude. A familiar comfort settled between them, a subtle inquiry in each glance. One late afternoon, as the golden light filtered through the fitting leaves, Vance lowered his book. "You know, Marcus," he began, his voice softer than usual, "we all chase something. I chased a dream that crumbled. What about you? What's the fire that keeps you on the move?" Marcus hesitated. Then, feeling a strange ease with this quiet stranger, he started talking. He spoke of Maya, of the tuition, but then his voice deepened, taking on a new cadence as he shifted to his culinary vision, his eyes tracing the outlines of a dream on the fading horizon. "It wouldn't just be a restaurant," Marcus explained, his hands gesturing with a passion he rarely showed. "It'd be Thorne's table, farm to table, but truly local. The community garden, once it's revived, would supply half the produce. Fresh, healthy, bringing people together. Not just food, but a hub. A place where every dish tells a story of the neighborhood, of resilience." Vance listened intently, a subtle, almost imperceptible shift in his gaze. His head gave a small, thoughtful nod, as if filing away every word, every nuance of Marcus's carefully articulated vision. The next morning, the stark white of an eviction notice flapped violently from the rusted gate of the community garden. Marcus's heart sank, a heavy stone in his chest. Notice of closure. The bold letters screamed, citing unpaid fees and neglect. His dream of Thorne's table, of fresh greens from these very beds, felt like it was slipping through his fingers like dry soil. The garden, his small oasis of hope, was about to be bulldozed into just another empty lot. That evening, Maya found Marcus staring blankly at her university's portal. "Dad, the tuition deadline." "It's next week," she said, her voice small, almost a whisper. Marcus forced a smile, a strained mask. "Don't you worry, sweet pea, I'm working on it. Always am." But his hands trembled as he closed the laptop, the red circled date on the calendar mocking him, a relentless ticking clock threatening to shatter her future. The weight of his promise felt insurmountable. During a rare coffee break, Marcus overheard Mr. Silas, his fellow driver, holding court at a corner table. Marcus and his charity work. Silas sneered to another community member. "Feeding strays, now losing that overgrown garden. Told you his kindness was just plain stupidity." The other chuckled. Marcus's jaw tightened. The words stung, echoing the doubt that sometimes gnawed at his own resolve. He paid for his coffee and left abruptly, the indifferent chatter a painful reminder of his isolation. Watch a man break under pressure, sacrificing everything for a promise. How much more can he take? Marcus Thorne pushed past the city's limits, a blur of motion from dawn till deep into the night. His delivery bag felt heavier with each passing hour, his body protesting every turn of the pedal. Dark circles bloomed under his eyes, permanent fixtures of exhaustion. He took on double shifts, picked up every last-minute order, fueled by cold, forgotten coffee and the image of Maya's hopeful face. A dropped order, a near miss with a taxi, each incident a stark reminder of how thin his tether was. But he kept moving, chasing every single dollar, because failure wasn't an option. Is it a coincidence or a clue? The failed man leaves a breadcrumb trail for Marcus. One late evening, as Marcus paused on the familiar park bench, exhaustion making his limbs heavy, he noticed something. Tucked beside where Sterling Vance usually sat was a discarded business magazine. It was open to an article titled "Unconventional Investments, Finding Grit in Unlikely Places." Vance was nowhere to be seen, but the magazine felt deliberately placed. Marcus's weary mind, usually too fogged with fatigue to notice such details, felt a flicker of curiosity. He picked it up, the glossy pages cool against his calloused fingers, and tucked it into his bag. A seed of thought, strange and unexpected, had been planted. Is integrity a weakness? Witness a man soul-searching as everything he believes is challenged. Back in his quiet apartment, the magazine article lay open on his worn kitchen table. He reread the bold headline, then let his gaze drift to the stack of overdue bills, the eviction notice for the community garden, and finally, a framed photo of Maya, beaming. Was he foolish? Had his unwavering kindness, his stubborn belief in doing good, simply blinded him to the harsh realities of the world? His values warred with the crushing weight of his circumstances. A profound doubt settled deep in his chest. He closed his eyes, searching for an answer, a decision slowly forming in the weary depths of his soul. The axe falls. His last haven, his last dream is taken. What now? The next morning, the final blow landed. Marcus stood in the community garden, the crisp air doing little to cool the fire in his gut. A stern-faced community representative, clutching official papers, formally informed him the garden would be cleared next week. Marcus pleaded, his voice hoarse with desperation, citing the garden's potential, the community it could serve. But the representative remained unyielding, a wall of bureaucratic indifference. "Orders are orders, Mr. Thorne. It's out of our hands." Marcus stood alone amidst the neglected plants, his hands clenched, feeling a profound, crushing sense of helplessness. The calm before the storm. A father's love shines through the darkest despair. That evening, Marcus cooked a simple meal for Maya, a meager comfort of rice and beans. He forced a smile, trying to maintain a facade of normalcy. Maya, however, saw through his weariness. Her young eyes, sharp and empathetic, studied his tired face. "Are you okay, Dad?" she asked softly, reaching across the small table to take his hand. "Just a long day, baby girl," he murmured, squeezing her hand, a protective shield around his despair. She didn't press, just offered a quiet, comforting presence. After a tender hug, Marcus slipped out, needing a walk to clear his heavy mind. A breaking man pours out his heart to a stranger. Is this the end, or a new beginning? He found Vance on the park bench, as if by fate. The usual quiet greetings gave way to an outpouring of Marcus's deepest fears. The tuition deadline, the garden's demise, the gnawing self-doubt. He spoke of feeling like a failure, of questioning every generous act. Vance listened, his gaze steady, an intensity Marcus mistook for profound empathy. "Grit isn't just about holding on, Marcus," Vance said, his voice low and rich. "It's knowing when to pivot, when to believe in the impossible." A flicker of hope, faint but persistent, ignited in Marcus's tear-filled eyes. The Kafo failed man vanishes into the night, but his actions have just begun. What's his next move? Vance rose from the bench, a subtle shift in his posture, now straighter, more commanding. "I must go," he said, his voice calm. "But remember what I said." He offered a brief, encouraging nod, then turned and walked away. Marcus watched him go, a strange sense of quiet determination settling over him. As Vance disappeared into the shadows, he pulled out a sleek, modern smartphone, the screen illuminating his face, now devoid of its earlier weariness. "It's done," he said into the phone, his voice firm. "The test is complete. Prepare the necessary arrangements. Against all odds, he chooses hope. Watch him make his final stand." The dawn broke, painting Marcus's small apartment in hues of orange and gray. Vance's words echoed in his mind, intertwined with Maya's hopeful face. He looked at the eviction notice, then at the pen in his hand. He would not give up. Not on the garden, not on his dream, not on Maya. He sat at his kitchen table, pulling out a notepad. He began to write, crafting a short, heartfelt speech for the community meeting. It was his last stand, an act of faith against all odds. He would speak his truth, one final time. His head held high, Marcus walked towards the community center, ready to fight. He failed. The deadline passed. Is this the end for Marcus and Maya's dreams? The cold glow of his phone's screen lit Marcus's face in the pre-dawn gloom. A notification, stark and unforgiving, blared the truth. Tuition payment overdue. The numbers mocked him, a crushing weight settling on his chest. He had pushed, he had fought, he had sacrificed, yet here it was, proof that his best wasn't enough. A tremor ran through his hand as he gripped the phone, the cold reality of his failure, a bitter taste in his mouth. He'd let Maya down. The fate of the garden hangs in the balance. Will anyone speak up? Marcus walked into the community center meeting room, the heavy news of the tuition payment a lead weight in his stomach. The air was thick with the scent of stale coffee and resignation. Mr. Silas sat hunched near the back, muttering to another resident about wasted efforts. The community representative, a stern woman in a sensible suit, droned on about budget shortfalls and the inevitable repurposing of the community garden space. Marcus glanced around. Bored faces, defeated eyes. Nobody seemed to care, or perhaps, like him, they were just too exhausted to fight. The mood was a heavy shroud, signaling defeat before the battle had even begun. Against all odds, he speaks truth to power. Will his words be enough to save his dream? Does anyone have a final statement? The representative asked, her voice devoid of expectation. Marcus felt a surge of unexpected heat. This was it. He stood, his movements deliberate, every eye now on him. "Yes," he began, his voice shaky but gaining strength with each word. He spoke of the garden not as a plot of dirt, but as a lifeline, a place where community could grow, where children could learn, where fresh, healthy food could combat the fast food deserts. He painted a picture of Thorne's Table, a farm-to-table restaurant, sourcing from this very garden, providing jobs, nourishment, and hope. His passion, raw and undeniable, filled the room. A few heads nodded slowly. Silas, however, stared intently at the floor, a faint flush creeping up his neck. Black SUVs. A sudden silence. The game is about to change. Who has arrived? Just as Marcus finished, the low thrum of powerful engines vibrated through the floorboards. Heads snapped towards the windows. Outside, a sleek line of black SUVs purred to a stop, their tinted windows reflecting the gray morning sky. A hush fell over the room, conversations freezing mid-sentence. What was happening? The officers at the doors stiffened, eyes darting. A sense of awe and confusion rippled through the stunned community members, their faces pressed against the glass. Then, the front door of the lead SUV swung open with a soft click, revealing a polished, expensive shoe. The failed entrepreneur returns, but not as you remember him. This is the moment everything changes. A collective gasp escaped the room. From the SUV stepped Sterling Vance. But this was not the slumped figure from the park bench. This was a man transformed. Impeccably dressed in a tailored charcoal suit, his beard neatly trimmed, his posture commanding, he exuded an aura of quiet, formidable power. He was flanked by two assistants, sleek folders clutched in their hands. Marcus stared, his mind struggling to reconcile the ragged man he'd shared his last meal with, the man he'd poured his heart out to, with this imposing figure. Disbelief warred with a dawning, terrifying realization. Vance's eyes, once shadowed with mock despair, now gleamed with an intelligent, unwavering intensity. He strode purposefully towards Marcus, every step echoing the silence of the stunned room. The truth explodes. Every act of kindness, every sacrifice was seen. This is the moment of ultimate vindication. Vance stopped directly in front of Marcus, his gaze unwavering. The room held its breath. "Marcus Thorne," Vance began, his voice calm, measured, yet carrying an undeniable authority that silenced any lingering whispers. "My name is Sterling Vance. I am a venture capitalist." A wave of audible gasps swept through the room. Silas's head shot up, his face a mask of shock. "I wasn't a failed entrepreneur, Marcus. I was testing you. Testing your spirit, your conviction, your unwavering integrity. You gave me food when you had nothing. You offered hope when you yourself were drowning. You shared your dream, knowing it was an impossible one, yet you fought for it anyway." He paused, his eyes sweeping over the stunned faces of the community. "And you passed, Marcus. You passed in ways I never imagined." The community center buzzed, but the noise faded into a distant hum for Marcus. Sterling Vance stood before him, not the failed entrepreneur, but a formidable presence, his voice carrying an authority that commanded the room. "Marcus Thorne," Vance began, his gaze unwavering, "I am prepared to fully fund Maya's tuition, acquire and revitalize the community garden under your stewardship, and provide the seed investment for Thorne's Table, your farm-to-table restaurant vision." He extended a thick leather-bound folder. "These are the contracts. Your future, and this community's, starts now." Marcus's breath caught in his throat. His hand trembled, reaching out to accept the folder, the weight of it feeling like both a dream and an impossible reality. Tears welled in his eyes, blurring the faces of the awestruck community around him. A wave of murmurs swept through the room, quickly followed by whispers of awe and then, for some, a searing shame. Mr. Silas, who had snickered at Marcus's every selfless act, stood with a face flushed crimson, his head bowed, unable to meet anyone's eye. Others, who had doubted and gossiped, now stepped forward, their voices hushed with genuine admiration. "Marcus, I'm so sorry," one woman stammered, offering a handshake. "We misjudged you," another added. "You were right all along. Kindness does come back." Marcus, still reeling, could only nod, a profound sense of vindication washing over him, as he was enveloped by a mix of apologies and sincere congratulations. Outside, the crisp air offered a moment of quiet reflection. Marcus turned to Vance, his eyes still glistening. "Mr. Vance," he began, his voice thick with emotion, I don't know what to say. Thank you for everything, for believing in me when no one else did." He clutched the folder to his chest. "I promise you, I won't let you down. This isn't just about a restaurant or a garden. It's about proving that integrity, that heart, truly matters. I'll make you proud." Vance offered a calm, knowing smile, placing a reassuring hand on Marcus's shoulder. "I never doubted you, Marcus. Not for a moment." That evening, in their small apartment, Marcus shared the unbelievable news with Maya. "Your tuition, baby girl," he choked out. "It's paid. All of it." Maya's eyes, usually filled with quiet determination, widened in pure joy. She sprang from her seat, throwing her arms around him. "Dad, really? And the garden?" Marcus laughed, a sound he hadn't made in months. "The garden is ours, and soon, Thorne's Table will be a reality." Maya pulled back, her face radiant. "We did it, Dad. We actually did it." Her embrace was a soft, warm affirmation that every sacrifice had been worth it. Months turned into a year. The once overgrown community garden now flourished, a vibrant tapestry of fresh produce, tended by Marcus and a growing team of enthusiastic volunteers. Children laughed as they helped harvest, and neighbors gathered for cooking classes. Then came the grand opening of Thorne's Table, the restaurant, bathed in warm light, buzzed with happy diners enjoying farm-to-table delights. Marcus, now in a crisp chef's coat, moved with practiced ease between the kitchen and the dining room, a genuine smile rarely leaving his face. Maya, home from her first year of college, proudly helped serve, her future bright and secure. One bustling evening at Thorne's Table, Marcus paused, his gaze falling on a quiet figure huddled in a corner booth. A man with tired eyes and worn shoes. He looked just like so many Marcus had served in the park once upon a time. Without a second thought, Marcus plated a warm, hearty meal and carried it over. "On the house, brother," he said softly, sliding the dish across the table. The man looked up, surprised, then offered a small, grateful smile. Marcus returned to the kitchen, a profound sense of peace settling over him. Success hadn't changed his heart. Marcus Thorne's journey was a testament. It wasn't luck, nor was it a sudden stroke of genius that built Thorne's Table. It was the unwavering heart of a man who chose kindness, even when it seemed foolish, and held on to his vision with unyielding grit. His integrity, tested and true, became the very harvest of his dreams. What do you believe? Does true character always find its way back to reward? Let us know in the comments. And if this story moved you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. It helps us bring you more stories that remind us of the enduring power of genuine spirit